Thank you so much. Madam City Clerk, I'd like to call to order the April 4th, can you believe we're in April, 2023 meeting of the Murrieta City Council. Roll call.
Councilmember Warren.
Here.
Councilmember Lavelle.
Here.
Councilmember Holliday.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Stone.
Here.
Mayor DeForest.
Here.
Let the record reflect that all members are present.
Madam City Clerk, is there any public comments on closed session items only?
Seeing none, and if you would like me to announce closed session?
Let's do it.
Okay. As listed on the agenda, the City Council will meet in closed session on 2 items. CS1, Conference with Legal Counsel, Anticipated Litigation. City Council will conduct a closed session pursuant to Government Code Sections 549569D2 and D3 because there is a significant exposure to litigation in 2 cases. CS2, Conference with Labor Negotiator. The City Council will conduct a closed session pursuant to Government Code Sections 54957.6 with the City Manager, the City Attorney, and the City's negotiators regarding labor negotiations with the Murrieta Police Officers Association, representing the city's police officers, corporals, detectives, and sergeants, the Murrieta Police Management Association, representing the city's police lieutenants and captains, the Murrieta Firefighters Association, representing the city's fire engineers, captains, and firefighters, and the Murrieta Fire Management Association, representing the city's battalion chiefs. That concludes closed session items.
Thank you so much. With that, we are going into closed session, and we will reconvene at 6 p.m. for our regular meeting. Thank you so much, Madam City Clerk. I'd like to call to order. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order our reconvening of April 4th, 2023 meeting of the Murrieta City Council from our closed session. Announcement of closed session action. Madam City Attorney, could you please provide a report from closed session?
The City Council met in closed session on 3 items. The first was to confer with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation where there was exposure litigation in 2 cases pursuant to Government Code Sections 54956.9 D2 and D3. The council was updated, no reportable action. And the third item, the council met to confer with its labor negotiator pursuant to Government Code Sections 54957.6. And that item also, the council was updated, no reportable action. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. City Clerk, could we do roll call for determination of a quorum, please?
Councilmember Warren.
Here.
Councilmember Lavelle.
Here.
Councilmember Holliday.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Stone.
Here.
Mayor DeForest.
Here.
Let the record reflect that all members are present.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Moving on to the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation. Today, our invocation will be led by Pastor J. Wesley Brown from Gateway Church. And I would like to ask everyone to remain standing after the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll lead us today in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would everyone stand, please? Place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome.
Let us pray. Our Father, as always, we thank you for the privilege to call upon your name. We ask that you would pour out the blessing of your strength and wisdom upon our elected officials. Father, guide them in all the deliberations which they face this evening and in the coming days for the forward progress of our city. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much, Pastor Brown, for those beautiful words. We appreciate you coming tonight. All right, moving on to presentations.
Yes,
Madam City Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have Erica Heronick, an ambassador with One Legacy.
Hi. I'm here to represent for Donate Life Month. There'll be a proclamation that will be hopefully issued in honor of Donate Life Month. On behalf, I'm a One Legacy ambassador, I'm Erica Rannick, and on behalf of One Legacy, which is the Donate Life for 7 counties in Southern California, we're the liaison between the transplant centers and hospitals, along with our partnership with the DMV. We want to express our gratitude and appreciation for the city of Murrieta to have always supported us for Donate Life Month by issuing proclamations, and for supporting Donate Life Month. And why is Donate Life Month so important? Because organ, eye, and tissue donation has saved and healed many lives within the city of Murrieta and our whole community, including mine. My journey actually began around Easter of 2016 when I got ill, which triggered a heart attack, which then caused an arrhythmia to the point where I needed heart surgeries, to when I finally stroked and I wasn't going to survive without a heart transplant. And thanks to my donor, Dylan Stump, he's pictured here, and there's a little bit of picture here, and I've got him here. This is Dylan. He was a 19-year-old Cal Baptist University student on his way home for Easter dinner in 2017 when he got just in a little fender bender. While waiting for a tow truck, traffic backs up, people get impatient. Someone went down the side of the freeway and hit his car at 65 miles an hour. He saved 5 lives, mine included, and 213 tissue samples were recovered. And tissue samples being like ACLs, knee replacements, dental implants, tissue for like mastectomies and burn victims, just to give you a sample of what tissue samples are and how many people were impacted by just one life. And he saved my life. He gave me a second chance. I only had a 10% chance of survival. So I'm very thankful that he was a registered organ donor so that I can celebrate my heart transplant April 19th of this month. So now I'm a heart attack, LVAD, heart transplant, 3 strokes, survivor warrior, and all those events occurred over a little 1-year period, and thanks to him, I'm here. Donate Life Month not only increases the awareness for the need for organ, eye, and tissue donation, but it takes the opportunity to honor the donors. Starting April 29th, in the lower right-hand picture, I don't know if you can see the slide there, I'm standing next to Dylan's mom, Dana. She's also a One Legacy ambassador, and yes, she did get to hear his heartbeat in my chest. We have the Donate Life Run Walk, and that's where we were at last year, where 12,000 people attend, all pretty much donor families forming teams to honor the heroes that save lives. There's a Circle of Life garden there with all the pictures. There's a picture, you can see Dylan posters there. Posters in the Circle of Life of all the donors being represented there. It's really surreal to walk into it. And next to it is a wall where all the DMV Donate Life Month proclamations are hanging in support. Additionally, the local hospitals, all of our local hospitals will be raising Donate Life flags in honor of all the donors. In fact, Inland Valley and Temecula Valley, about a couple weeks ago, did what we call the honor walk for some donors. They line the hallways as the donors being wheeled down. So they're very involved in our community. In fact, Southwest Riverside County is really making some records and strides in supporting donor families and recipients. The DMV, I'm also partnered with the Temecula DMV. 84 DMVs support the Blue Green Day, which is April 14th, to raise that awareness. And they submit pictures, and last year the Temecula DMV won state out of the best picture. Which is truly amazing. I appreciate everything that they do. So I also wanted to look at, oh, you can't see my data up there, the screen. But what it's showing you, what I have data-wise, is the number of transplants done nationwide was 42,000, whereas the year before it was 41,000. So we're seeing some strides in lives being saved there. But let's to be a little more specific, in Southern California, 4,886 lives were saved in Southern California, which the year before was 4,600. So we're seeing a big increase with a 200 increase, which is truly incredible. But now let's look at the wait list. Last year, it was 106,000 on the wait list, and as of today, it's 106,000. So you're seeing the same number, and actually in December, it was 104,000. So you're seeing all this big discrepancy. Well, let's put it in perspective for Southern California. As of today, there's 24,000 people on the organ donor list in Southern California. 21,000 of them waiting for a kidney, 2,000 waiting for a liver, and then so forth and down the line. And that's pretty incredible. And then you compare that to see the, how many we saved, the 4,800, which still is incredible. you're seeing the need for organ, eye, and tissue donation. And the problem is most people have to wait for a long, long time. And that's why the discrepancy in numbers, and many don't make it, especially for kidneys. Many have to wait 11 years to get an organ if they make it. On average, 17 to 19 people pass away a day while waiting, while just as many are getting put right back on that list in need. I see it every day, and it's heartbreaking for families, and I know many probably in this room have had a direct connection to organ, eye, and tissue donation, and we're starting to see it. So I do want to thank those who do have the pink dot on their driver's license, because you never know, you might be that match to someone, just like Dylan was my match. And the way my donor mom, Dana, calls me the silver lining to a tragedy. So that's why we work well together. If you aren't a registered donor and you're thinking, maybe I do want to be one, I'm sure, well, you never know. You might, again, be that silver lining, and it may be something you can, it'll happen down the line, we hope. So you can do that when you renew your driver's license, or you can get online to donatelife.org, and that would be just an amazing thing if you guys, a legacy to leave is what Dylan has done, and perhaps you can leave that legacy. And I want to thank the city for continually supporting Donate Life Month. And this is something, I was a teacher in Lake Elson Unified School District, primarily at Terracotta for 20 years. And I had language arts. And when I was a tough road for recovery because I was blind and confined to a wheelchair. And I had students all the way from 1999 come and support me and help me move and get me going. And they brought me this. It's a pig with wings, pigs fly. And it just hit home to me that that's how they see organ donation now, is that you make the impossible possible. So I like to think that you guys are helping support by raising this awareness that you're helping pigs fly in southern Riverside County. So thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today. I know that organ transplant and donation is so important. My front office her dad just received a heart.
Yeah.
And so he is less than a year with his new heart, and what a beautiful, miraculous thing that was. So on behalf of the entire city and city council, I'd like to read a proclamation to you today. DMV Donate Life Month. Whereas organ and tissue, marrow, and blood donations are giving acts of are life-giving acts recognized worldwide as expressions of compassion in those in need. And whereas more than 100,000 individuals nationwide are currently on the National Organ Transplant waiting list, on an average of 17 people, which you already said, die each day while waiting due to a shortage of donated organs. Whereas a single individual's donation of a heart, lung, liver, kidneys, pancreas, and small intestine can save up to 8 lives. Donation of tissue can save and heal the lives of more than 75 others, and a single blood donation can help 3 people out of need. And whereas last year, because of charity and generosity of the people across the nation, transplant experts performed more than 41,000 organ transplants. Whereas millions of lives each year are saved and healed by donors of organs, tissues, marrow, and blood. Whereas California residents can sign up with Donate Life California Donor Registry when applying and renewing for their driver's license. You have this proclamation down, didn't you?
Yeah.
Whereas over 15 million Californians have already signed up with the state-authorized Donate Life California Donor Registry to ensure their wishes to be an organ, eye, and tissue donor are honored. Now is, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Lisa DeForest, on behalf of the City Council and the City of Murrieta, do recognize the National Donate Life Month, the month of April 2023, is hereby proclaimed DMV Donate Life California Month in the City of Murrieta. And thank you so much for bringing this to everyone's attention. A lot of people don't even know what an amazing gift of life that someone can give. And I have a son at CBU, and when you're saying that, I'm like, he better be driving safe home on Easter.
Well, but that's the thing, you just don't know, and he did the right thing. He pulled to the side, stayed in the car, he waited for the tow truck. you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know. And that's why, life's short, and
Yes.
this is your chance to think about,
Someone else and his heart beats in you.
oh,
So,
yeah.
thank you so very much for being here today. It is our honor to listen to your story as well as hear the amazing things and the legacy that you're pushing forward. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, yeah.
I touched the elbow. All right. All right, thank you so much. Now we're moving on to approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Seeing none,
I'd like to call for a motion and a second to approve the agenda. We have a second and a motion, and everyone has voted. All right.
motion carries unanimously, 5-0.
Thank you so very much. Department commissions and announcements. Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. We'd just like to remind everyone that we're starting our very busy season with CSD. We have a number of city events that will be coming up beginning this Saturday with our extravaganza. And so we encourage everyone to go to the city's website and look at the calendar and see all of those upcoming events. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know everyone's looking forward to the extravaganza and the Fireman's Barbecue, which is going to be the weekend after. So some amazing things coming in our city. The month of April is busy. Moving on to governing board commissions or committee reports. Madam City Clerk?
This is the opportunity for city council members to provide a brief report on conferences, seminars, and commission committees and/or board meetings attendance. Reports shall not exceed 3 minutes.
All right.
Councilmember Warren?
Thank you, Mayor. On the 23rd of March, I attended the RTA regular board meeting on behalf of Mayor DeForest. There were no reportable actions, I got to eat her crumble cookie that she did not get. There are some benefits of driving to Riverside. On the 27th of March, I attended the Riverside County Transportation Commission, known as the RCTC meeting. It was an ad hoc committee meeting, and the ad hoc committee voted to bring a phasing plan for the I-15 Southern Extension Express Lane project to the full commission for approval. I'm not sure if it's going to go to the commission in April or in May, but it is going to be on their agenda. This plan will have 2 express lanes in both directions, completed in 3 segments, with anticipated completion of all phases in 2030. At least I didn't say 2040. So phase 1 would be Calhelco Road to Indian Truck Trail. Second phase would be Indian Truck Trail to Nichols Road, and the third phase would be Nichols Road to Route 74, and that's over a $651 billion project. So that concludes my report, and I will keep you informed as this gets moved forward along. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Warren. Councilmember Lavelle.
I have no updates at this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Holliday.
Yesterday, April 3rd, I attended in Riverside, the Regional Conservation Authority, on behalf of Councilmember Stone. She was recovering from an illness. We had a closed session meeting I can't talk about, but the thing that is coming forward probably on the next open session is they're going to be reviewing what changes need to be done to the MSHCP plan, which is 20 years old and does not work anymore. And hopefully they can put together a plan with other agencies that are similar to them to move this item forward, because as the plan sits now, in I would guess 5 years, we probably aren't going to have any local agencies doing it anymore if we don't make a change. I also attended right after, fortunately, the Western Regional Council of Governments. We adopted a strategic plan trying to get them focused on doing a few things well versus doing a lot of things kind of partially. So with the new director that we have on there, I have hope that that agency is going to be performing better here in the near future. That's all I have.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Holliday. Mayor Pro Tem Stone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to thank Ron for attending the RCA meeting. I'm sure it was very interesting to you. The Behavioral Health Committee, which was voted on in January, I want to thank Ivan for all his due diligence. Our first meeting is scheduled for Friday, April the 14th at 9 a.m. You are all invited. And our Southwest Women's Elective Collaborative will be held on Thursday, April the 20th. And I want to thank Dominique for all her efforts in every other month in facilitating that meeting. So thank you so much. And that concludes my report.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem Stone. And I just would like to say thank you again to Councilmember Warren for filling in at the very last minute for the RTA through storm and sleet and snow. She made it for me. So I greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much. I was attending another event. Moving on, Madam City Clerk, do we have public comments for non-agenda items?
Any person may address the governing bodies on any subject pertaining to city business. Normally, no action may be considered or taken by the governing bodies on any matter not listed on the agenda. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Faye Wands.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilman. At the last meeting, I talked about the Auburn Dam that was not built, even though $2.7 billion has been designated for that. I was talking to a friend and she did a little bit more research. This has been going on since 1950. They were supposed to start building it in 1968. And they found some seismic faults up there, so the dam had to be redesigned. The first design they didn't accept, but eventually they did. The money that was allotted to them at that time was $431 million. And they didn't build it. So when you put that in with the $2.7 billion that they've done this time, I don't understand why this isn't being carried forward. This dam was going to be the largest or the tallest dam in California, possibly one of the largest in the United States. It would have been a reservoir that would hold 10,000 acres of water that is now going out to the Pacific Ocean. And they're telling us to keep conserving, although they've lifted the restrictions. And I really want to urge everyone to call Senators Feinstein and Padilla and Congressman Issa and find out why this is still going on when we need to have it so badly. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Casson Klein.
Good evening. I want to congratulate Kim and wish her a happy anniversary. was 6 years ago today that the council named you to replace your predecessor, Mr. Dudley. So, also happy Jeep Day, happy 4x4 Day. The last council meeting, Councilmember Lavelle, during your governing body announcements, you tossed it to staff, to Mr. Holler, which in 30 years of being involved, I've never seen an elected toss their governing board announcements to staff member. But you asked Mr. Holler to report on the behavioral health. And as I recall, when that was rolled out and proposed at a very contentious city council meeting, and then when it was adopted, the public was assured that it wasn't going to take additional staff time. And moreover, that if it was going to take any staff time, it would more than likely be Mr. Ambrose, who works on the homeless task force. So, my question tonight is, how much time is staff taking, more particularly Mr. Holler, because as someone who represents 5 significant projects in town, quite often, Ivan has to get involved and come downstairs and get involved in projects that are bread and butter. So, if what was adopted has changed, or if that's the practice has changed, and I think in the spirit of transparency, the public needs to know that. But from what I understood from your comments to Mr. Holler and what Ivan reported out, and then with what Lori has said tonight about a meeting on the 14th, I'm questioning, what is the practice versus what has been adopted? And so maybe that can be on the agenda next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Klein. Madam City Clerk.
Daniela Andrade.
With reinforcements, I see.
Good-looking ones, too.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Jackson, and this is Owen. This is Cruz. And my baseball team, we're looking for sponsors, and we're wondering if you can help us with the sponsors and trying to get some.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Daniela Andrade. We are representing SoCal Aces Travel Ball, and we are here because we are looking for sponsors. Travel Ball is very expensive. We have kids from, we are originated in Menifee, but we have kids from all over the neighboring cities as well. They are actually very good. They just won a championship game this last weekend, and they're getting ranks, so they're collecting those ranks quite frequently because they are that good. And we are just here to introduce ourselves and to ask any business and anyone who would like to sponsor us to please reach out to us. I have a flyer that, here you go. Pass it on. And if you can, please pass on the word, we would really appreciate it. We need all the help we can get. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and congratulations, boys.
Thank you.
Oh, and another request, they wanted a picture with you guys, if that's okay.
Picture?
Yes.
Is that what you said, a picture? Yeah?
A picture, yes.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Yeah, good job. Keep it up. I want to see lots of rings on those fingers.
Absolutely. We're going to bring them next time. Thank you so much.
All right. Madam City Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're going to move on to approval of consent calendar.
Okay, no more public comments? Thank you
No
so
more public
much.
comments, I apologize.
All right, no worries, no worries. Moving on to the consent calendar. Approval of items 1 through 9. Items on the consent calendar are considered routine and may be enacted by one motion and vote. There will be no discussion of these items unless specific items are removed from the consent calendar for separate motion. Are there any requests from the City Council to pull any of the consent calendar items for discussion or abstaining from voting? I hear none. Madam City Clerk, are there any members of the public requesting to speak on a consent calendar item?
Seeing none.
Can I call for a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar? And everyone vote.
Motion carries unanimously, 5-0.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much. All right, moving on to a public hearing. All right, financing for the Oakview Ranch Murrieta Apartments Phase 1, Adams, an affordable housing project. Carl, fantastic. Before we move on to the public hearing, I would like to recuse myself from this item, as I own a business within 500 feet of the project. And with that being said, I will hand it over to Mayor Pro Tem Stone, and would you please preside over the public hearing?
Yes, ma'am. You can pass me here. Thank you so much.
She would like to use.
It's on my notes. Love it. Thank you, Madam Mayor. We will now hear item number 10, financing for Oakview Ranch Murrieta Apartments Phase 1, Adams Avenue Affordable Housing Project. May we have staff report?
Sure. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. I'm Carl Steele, Interim City Planner with Development Services. And tonight we have Cameron here as well from National Corps sitting next to me. We're here this evening to conduct a public hearing for the financing for the Oakview Ranch Adams Avenue Apartments. This is item number 10. Here's the project site for reference on Adams Avenue. The City Council approved the project on the site in June of 2022. It includes 200 workforce housing units, a Boys and Girls Club, and other amenities. It's located in the city's downtown specific plan. And just a little refresher on the site plan, this shows the approved development with the improvements and the landscaping around the property you can see there. And here are also the project elevations showing the 4-story project design. The project grading and building plans are currently in process with our counter staff in Public Works and Building. So following project approval last year, the project applicant submitted an application to finance the project with the California Statewide Communities Development Authority, which is CSCDA. You can see their symbol up there. The CSCDA is a joint powers authority founded and sponsored by the League of Cities that is formed with over 500 municipalities in California. They assist local governments and nonprofit organizations with the issuance of low-cost, tax-exempt financing. And the project tonight is proposed to use the Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act, known as TEFRA, which is a federal law, part of the federal IRS code, as a method of tax-exempt financing. So CSCDA is to provide $40 million in bond financing to the project. The debt is to be issued by CSCDA and will be the sole responsibility of the borrower, National Corps. The city will have no financial or legal obligations or responsibilities with regard to the repayment of the debt. And all financing documents carry disclaimers that the loan is not an obligation to the city. And that's also in the resolution as well. The city will bear no costs in the issuance of the proposed debt. The borrower is responsible for repayment pursuant to the agreement. So pursuant to TEFRA, this requires a public hearing, which is why we're all here tonight on this item. It has to be held by the governing body of the jurisdiction where the project's located according to law. And the governing body has to approve the proposed financing for CSCDA. That's according to the code, so that's why we're here. So recommendation is that the City Council conduct the public hearing under TEFRA pursuant to the IRS code and adopt the resolution approving the issuance of CSCDA multifamily housing revenue bonds for the construction of the Adams Avenue apartments. Such adoption is solely for the purposes of satisfying the requirements of TEFRA, the IRS code, and the California Government Code. Also, we recommend the City Council accept the CEQA determination that a mitigated negative declaration was prepared and adopted pursuant to CEQA, and this project is consistent with the approved mitigated negative declaration. Thank you. This concludes our presentation.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And I will take council member questions for staff at this time. Councilwoman Warren.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem Stone. I do have one question for you. I do understand that the city is under no legal or financial obligation at all. That I understand. My question to staff is, who pays the bond? Is it passed through to the tenants? How does this bond get repaid?
So CSCDA will issue the bond. National Corps is responsible to repay it, and it's repaid over time, over the course of the project. So National Corps would be paying it back various ways potentially, because it's a long-term deal. There's a lot of different financing on the project, but it's their responsibility to pay it back over time.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilman Holliday.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Just one, what happens in the case of a default?
I'm not an expert on that. Cameron might have some input from National Corps, but that would be more of a question for, I think, probably for CSCDA, but see if Cameron wanted to weigh in on that. Cameron with National Corps has had experience with these, obviously, on a number of projects. We've only had 2. This is the second one the city's done in the last 10 years, so.
Good evening, council members. So in the event of a default, this would be essentially like any other loan that a private developer would take. So in this case, Bank of America is the one purchasing the bonds. It's a private placement bond issuance. So it's basically a standard, if you default on your mortgage payments for your home, it's the same thing, essentially.
So Bank of America would foreclose on the property?
Exactly.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we will open to public hearing. Madam City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Stone. Now is the time for public comment on the public hearing. Seeing none.
Fantastic. Then we will close public hearing. Okay, let's go on to City Council discussions. Councilman Lavelle.
I have nothing.
Great. Councilwoman Warren. Councilman Holliday.
No more questions or discussion.
Fantastic. We will call for a motion in a second at this time. Madam City Clerk.
Second.
We have moved by Councilwoman Warren, second by Councilman Lavelle. Please cast your votes.
Motion carries 4-1 with Mayor DeForest recusing herself.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. And at this time, I request the City Clerk to notify the Mayor that she may return to continue presiding over the remainder of the meeting. Thank you, Madam City Clerk and fellow colleagues.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I appreciate you helping me out so I could recuse myself. And let's move on to the next item on the agenda. This is a discussion item, and it'll be the discussion of Santa in the City events as requested by Council Member Holliday. I'll ask Brian Ambrose if he would come forward as well.
Actually, I'm going to introduce this item real quick, Mayor DeForest. Hello,
hello.
over here. Sorry, it's like a voice from the side. So good evening. Yes, item 11 on the agenda is an item that the City Council had asked to have brought back from a prior council meeting initiated by Councilmember Holliday. And so we'd like to turn it over to you to have the discussion. And then, of course, we're here, including Brian Ambrose, to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councilmember Holliday.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Assistant City Manager Crane. It's actually, this is titled kind of wrong. It's not Santa in the City, which is what we did last year. This is really the Santa Stops that we've done in Murrieta for decades. And they were stopped because of COVID. And when the discussion has been had in the past about reintroducing those, the city decided that it might have gotten too large. There were problems the latter few years of having the event. So member of the community reached out and started a group on Facebook called Bring Santa Stops Back, and spoke with them and had discussions about how that would look and what the residents could do in the community to make this, to bring this back. And one of the comments, and I don't remember if it was from that resident or someone else, is like, just because we've grown to a larger city, we don't need to lose the things that make us unique. And I agree with them 100%. So we had a couple meetings. We reached out to several community groups, nonprofit groups, about if they would be willing to provide transportation and choirs for the events like we used to have. And we've gotten to the point now to where we need to expend some staff time to kind of put this together to move forward. And we would like to get approval from consensus from the council to expend that staff time and to move forward and see what that plan looks like.
Thank you, Councilmember Holliday. All right, so we're going to have some discussion on this, and I will just...
Madam Mayor, would you like to take public comment?
Yes, let's take public comments.
Okay. Casson Klein?
You know, when the city first incorporated, there were really two main events that were our signature events. One was the Birthday Bash, and the other is the Santa Stars. In my opinion, nothing not only speaks connected by community, but demonstrates connected by community more than the Santa Stars. And not wanting to reveal anything to those that still believe, but I have participated in the event in more ways than one. And I can tell you from experience that, you know, this event brings neighbors from, you know, the neighborhood, because the stars are placed sporadically that maybe you don't know. So it does bring the neighbors together. And I would agree with Councilmember Holliday that, you know, I don't think we've gotten too big. You know, certainly size has some obstacles, but I think if there's a will, there's a way. And I think that if we want to talk, if we want to walk our talk, if we really are connected by community, we'll find a way to do this. I was interested to learn that to get this on the agenda, Councilmember Holliday had to have a consensus to have the council talk about this. And reading the staff report, I don't know if you have it printed, it's the last line on the printed where it says, it was determined that the city had reached a size where the Santa Star program was no longer feasible. And so I don't recall this coming to city council to make that determination. So if it has to come to the council to start it up again, how did it get taken off? And I get that, you know, it was COVID, and, you know, I've talked in this chamber before about the COVID culture. I think we're past that. So I'm hopeful that the majority of you, if not all of you, will support Councilmember Holliday in moving forward with having staff time look into this and bring this back. Because again, as Councilmember Holliday said, this is one of the originals. It's what makes Murrieta different from all the rest. And if we remember, you think back at why Murrieta incorporated, you know, was to not be annexed by Temecula. And we took a big bite, right? We already had our own fire department. We have our own police department. We had our own CSD. We have our own library district. No other city did that. We found a way to do it. We found a way to be different. Why stop now? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Klein. Any other public comments, Madam City Clerk?
Seeing none.
Oh. Oh, yes, you can pull a card from the back and then fill it out, but you can come on to the front and go ahead and speak now. Yeah, thank you, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name's Chris Wadoyak. I want to read a statement on behalf of my wife. My wife is the one that's started the Facebook page, Bring Back the Santa Stops. Hello, my name is Joni Wadoyak, and I've been a proud Murrieta resident for several years. My husband Chris and I raised our family here, and hopefully we will enjoy watching our future grandchildren raised in this amazing community. That is why I'm here tonight and why I started a Facebook group, Bring Back the Santa Stops. Currently, we have over 500 members, and that number continues to grow. The Santa Stops was a special and unique event held during Christmas time for many years. It set us apart from other cities. It gave families a chance to get out, gather at the White Stars, meet new neighbors, catch up with familiar faces as kids played, and the excitement grew waiting to see the Santa pull up. The Santa Stops were also an opportunity for the community to give back. At each stop, residents were able to donate non-perishable food and an unwrapped toy. Now that this event has ended, those donations have stopped. In today's economy, when so many families are hurting, more and ever we need to help these donations to get our local families, especially during a very expensive and stressful time of year. So you might be thinking, well, that's all wonderful, but it's a daunting task and costly to bring back the Santa Stops. I've come up with a few solutions. We have an army of volunteers who live in this community and are willing and ready to put their time to volunteer. I've spoken to businesses that are interested in donating their company vehicles, making monetary donations, or both. Even the largest financial institution in Riverside County, Altura Credit Union, is willing to help and put forth donations. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to bring the Santa Stops back because I believe this event is one of the greatest traditions the city of Murrieta put on and is a wonderful way to bring neighbors and the city together. We're connected by community, aren't we? I am not a terrific public speaker, but I am a go-getter. Some of you may remember me approaching you last fall during the Chamber of Commerce Awards to discuss the Santa Stops. I even took an opportunity to bring it up with Mayor DeForest while we were both in the bathroom. I want to thank the council member Ron Holiday, who made a promise at that event that he would help. No matter the outcome, thank you, Ron, for your support. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Madam City Clerk, or anyone in the audience, do we have anyone else that would like to speak?
Seeing none.
All right, thank you so much. I'll move it back up to the dais for discussion. And Mayor Pro Tem Stone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had a conversation with former mayor and councilman Jack Van Haster. And our former mayor and council member was the one that actually brought the Santa Stop. It was his idea because as a little boy, that's how his community connected during the holiday time. And he also educated me on that it's also a way for the community to bring food items for our fire department. And I love that as well because we do have underserved people in our community. And yes, we are connected by community, and I don't want to lose that old town feel, even though we are a vibrant city that we are today. And I always give credit to our past leadership because of their vision, and here we are today moving Murrieta forward based on our founding council members. I would love to see this project continue. Even though we have grown from 40 to 50,000 people when our former mayor presented this project, this event, this wonderful community project. And even though we're approximately 115,000, I know that after talking with our assistant city manager, there's some liability concerns, and I actually have some great ideas to mitigate some of those liability concerns. First of all, not having any bodies on any trucks or floats within the community. And however we designate the stars on the streets, we could have community members come and sing if we want to. They don't have to ride in the back of a car. They don't have to ride in a float. In addition, one of the things that our former mayor had talked about was at that time, within the subdivision, when families came together, it was an opportunity not only to say hello to old neighbors, but meet new neighbors. And as you know, since that time, our community has grown quite a bit. And so, again, going back to our roots, our small community, being connected by community, serving our underserved, having the food be donated to our food pantries, and continue the old traditions as we move forward with new traditions. So I just wanted to share with you my conversation with our former mayor, who would love to see this continue. Thank you so much, Council Member Holliday, for bringing this forward. And I support this cause, so thank you so much. And that concludes my comments, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Council Member Lavelle.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I would just echo, I think, what everyone, I think, is feeling. I had the privilege of my daughter experiencing this in several different stars for about 7 years, if I can remember. I can't remember when that ended for us, but it was an amazing time, and I also would fully support this for the new dads and new moms out there that would get to experience the same joys that I did. I think it's a great staple of the community, and I'd love to see it come back as well. So thank you, Mr. Holliday, for spearheading this, and keep the momentum going.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Lavelle. Councilmember Warren.
Yes. Would you be wanting to bring, could you bring this back this December, or is this something that would take a long time in planning and would be next December, 24 or 23? What was the?
Could we bring maybe Brian to the podium to answer some questions, as well as Kristen? Or you can stay where you are on the sidelines there.
My target is this December.
This December? And do we have a backup plan if that doesn't work?
A backup plan if what doesn't work?
If
we
you
don't get it
can't
ready by
no,
December?
if you can't get it ready by December, do we have a, because I
see
don't want to
any
not
reason-
celebrate with our families.
I don't see any reason that would happen, but we would have to make that determination, obviously. How much time would we need to put Santa in the city back in place? What would be your drop dead date?
Excuse me, sorry about that. It's hard to determine with staffing levels. A lot of it will depend on staffing levels. We also would need to buy 3 new trailers.
No, I'm talking about the Santa in the city, what you did last year.
Oh, the one we did last year?
How much notice would you need to put that on if something fell apart here?
We're planning on doing something similar or working with this organization to figure out what the next steps are, but something will occur in December.
Okay, that was my only concern. If this didn't go together and we were working really hard on this, I want to make sure we have something in the queue
Absolutely.
for that. Maybe even a big thing at Town Square Park. I mean, one location, but something. I just wouldn't want something not to happen. So, thank you. That was the only
I'm known as the Grinch now,
you.
but I'm not that much of a
You
Grinch.
are not known as that.
All right. Thank you so much, my fellow council, for those questions, and I have a few questions as well. So just to get briefed on, the event was originally stopped because of COVID. Is that true? Was it 2020 or 2019? I can't remember. I know my boys got too big for the stop. I still went down because it was great to see neighbors, and I think that's really important. But why did this stop? And I've heard a lot of things, like we've gotten too big, that logistics of making this happen. And I know because Santa was often late. His reindeers were pulling a little too slow. And so can you give me some?
Sure, as with any complex problem, it's not just one thing. COVID itself was not the thing that stops Santa, the Santa stars. But it is kind of a series of things that occurred. First and foremost, volunteers need to be live scanned. The police department is the place that we send the volunteers to get live scanned, and there's just not enough staff for all those that we need. So for instance, if youth need to get fingerprinted, it's only open certain hours to get live scans. Number two is the equipment. All three of the trailers that we use are decrepit. We cannot keep them on the road any longer. We also, a few years back, moved from owning our city fleet to leasing through Enterprise. Therefore, we don't have the attachments for them, and we certainly don't have the audio that we would have to hook up. And so we'd have to buy all new audio equipment that I'm not even sure we're allowed under contract to attach. Just in terms of.
Brian,
Let me
I'm sorry.
Yes,
As the person who canceled it, let me save you from
Here's
this
the
one
true
here.
Scrooge, right?
I'm
sorry, Madam
actually the
City
Grinch,
Manager,
so-
sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry,
Poor Brian. So they weren't stopped because of COVID. COVID was the nail in the coffin. We had been limping along for quite some time. Just to be clear, I don't think there's probably a staff person, maybe that week, but not the rest of the time, that doesn't love this program. Everything that has been said, we completely agree with. We do. The problem is, for years leading up to COVID, it's a huge demand on staff. And as we've built new neighborhoods and expanded into areas that weren't built before, there's an increased number of stars needed, which means there's an increased number of floats. So we're up to 3 floats that go out, and for each float, how many people, roughly? 12?
3 Santas, 2 costumed characters, a person in front to do traffic control, and 2 people in the back to do the food and toy drive.
And so we basically lose our entire CSD staff because we go out every night for 2 weeks. So like most things, if the council wants to bring this program back, we'll have to find a way to either bring in temporary staffing, and it really just comes down to money. And we can put it back together. We will have to we'll probably have to go to 4 floats, and so we'll have to purchase those. We'll have to purchase hitches. We'll make it work. We will have to come back to you with a budget, but that's why it was stopped. And when COVID hit, we definitely didn't have the staff to do it, and so that's kind of how we got here.
Thank you, Madam City Manager. Okay, and then I'll continue with my questions with Brian. I'll let you speak. It's your item.
Just a quick thought. We aren't thinking of doing the floats. We aren't thinking of towing anything around. Actually, our vision, and obviously I have to sit down with Brian and work out some of the details, but we're thinking of 5 routes, 1 for each district, and having the council member or their representative be with the group that introduces it right before Santa arrives. So we're not looking at being so equipment intensive as we were in the past. We still are going to need some staff, volunteer police and volunteer police cars and that kind of thing. But we're not looking at doing the equipment like we did before.
Thank you. That's good clarity. Thank you so much. Can we have some type of, what did it cost us to do this before, some cost analysis? Because if Santa stops, sounds like a lot of equipment and a lot of things, and I'm gonna throw out a number of, say, 100 grand. We could have one heck of a party for 100 grand at the amphitheater, right? And I realize that we wouldn't have those costs every year, but we could buy our own ice skating rink that we could put in the center. But that's just, would we have a cost analysis? And
Yeah, I already have some of the costs. It's not quite $100,000, but again, a lot of that is because of the creative nature of the CSD staff, including Laura Frosso and Leah Kolek. But it costs us approximately $12,000 a year in staffing, about $5,000 for the school district choirs. Now, the last 2 years we asked them, they were not able to provide the choirs there, so that was off the table. $500 for us to rent the U-Haul for the food and toy drive. That's how we store everything. $5,000 for the bus transportation for the 2 weeks. City fleet accessories, we budgeted about $5,200 a year. Santa supplies, $1,700, and craft supplies, about $100.
Thank you for that. Much appreciated. Well, I love the Santa stops too. It's something I remember moving to Murrieta thinking, what the heck was this star in the road? Was that just because, this was my street? And then when Santa came there, I knew it was my street. So that was the best ever. But I just, looking at the numbers and trying to make a good decision, we need to do what's right for our community and what our community wants as well. So it sounds like we have consensus. Is that what we're looking for? Consensus to move forward? It does seem like that's where we are as a council. I think you have it, Madam City Manager.
I'm sorry.
Before we go any further.
No, it's fine. It's a receive and file.
A receive and file. So I will receive and file this as a positive receive. It's a positive receipt. All right. Thank you, Councilmember Holliday, for bringing this forward. And I think that whoever brought this forward definitely has to put on some suit that I think would look very nice. So, with a pillow. Yes. All right.
Couple pillows.
Couple pillows. All right, moving on. Do you need anything else from me? Is that all that's needed? Okay. Moving forward, Town Square Park Amphitheater, proposed operation plan, policy, and next steps. Moving on to the side again with our Assistant City Manager, Kristen Crane. She's coming down front.
So good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Item 12 on your agenda is an update from the Town Square Park Amphitheater City Council Ad Hoc Subcommittee, which consists of Councilmember Cindy Warren and Councilmember Ron Holliday. And Community Services Director Brian Ambrose and myself will be introducing this item and providing an overview for you of the agenda report and the Ad Hoc Committee's recommendation, and then we'll turn it over to them to provide additional perspective and comments. And I also want to acknowledge the important work of Special Event Manager Laura Frasso and Community Services Manager Leah Kolick. They both have been instrumental in developing this, and they are at a professional association conference for Parks and Rec staff down in San Diego this week, showing off all the wonderful things they do here in Murrieta. And with that, I'll turn it over to Brian.
Where was she going?
Thank you, Kristen. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council once again. For the edification of those watching, I'd like to start with a brief background of this project from the beginning. In 2007, the city completed construction of Town Square improvements. At that time, Murrieta Public Library, the Police Department, and the Senior Center had already opened at Town Square, and the latest improvements were the new City Hall and an original open-air stage. At that time, there were no other facilities such as the bathroom and facilities as well as the green room. However, this phase of Town Square was always envisioned as a two-stage project with a much larger amphitheater to host community events. The intent was to construct a true town square where civic buildings would be constructed around a large park where residents could take public transportation, drive their car, or better yet, walk to entertainment that would complement downtown Murrieta restaurants and shops. Staff began working on architectural plans for the Town Square Amphitheater around 2016. Once finalized, we awarded the contract of the amphitheater to Act 1 Construction on November 2019. Groundbreaking took place shortly thereafter, and as Carmel would have it, staff supervised a major construction project in the pinnacle of COVID. But we persevered all through the supply chain issues, and we opened in 2021. That's when construction was completed. Shortly thereafter, the city held its inaugural event, the Mayor's 2021 State of the City Address. Since that time, we have hosted movies and concerts in the park, a memorial for military members killed in action in Afghanistan, a 9/11 tribute, Officer Calhoun's memorial, 2 Halloween festivals, and other internal city events. Overall, staff has received very positive feedback from the community regarding the amphitheater. Over the past 2 years, there have been several discussions with the City Council on vision for the usage of the amphitheater and direction for it. During those discussions, the council expressed interest in conducting a procurement process that sought a third-party vendor that the city would contract with to manage the operations for 4 to 6 large-scale events at the amphitheater and all marketing with city oversight. Last March, the City Council established a City Council Town Square Amphitheater Ad Hoc Subcommittee, say that fast 5 times, to assess submittals that would be received through the procurement process and then bring back a recommendation to the full City Council. Next slide, please. As part of that process, last June, the city released what's called a Request for Information, or RFI, process for special events management services for the amphitheater, seeking information from qualified professional firms on how the firm would propose to manage and promote those 4 to 6 special events, concerts, and festivals at the amphitheater. The city received proposals from 3 firms, each with experience in event management, although they each had a varying degree of experience with all the relevant facets of the specific dynamics of a municipally owned amphitheater in a public park. The 3 firms were interviewed in late September 2022. Overall, the RFI process and the interviews were worthwhile and informative. Slide, please. Through that process, the subcommittee determined that before contracting with a firm for special events management services, the city would be well served to first establish for itself clear expectations and policy direction to ensure proper oversight while encouraging first-class entertainment for this community. Next slide, please. In short, the subcommittee is looking to provide specificity to both the potential vendor, but also for other prospective event host. The purpose for all this work is to reduce surprises, provide clear expectations that all users can factor into their business plans, and provide enough information for the potential vendor's financial model. Done correctly at the outset, this ultimately translates into a proper economic forecast for all parties, so there are no fiscal surprises as we manage what we hope is the most successful municipal facility in this region. The subcommittee presented this feedback to the City Council on November 1st, 2022, and ultimately the City Council gave direction to staff for the following. Hold off on moving forward with the RFI process for the special events management firm, to first focus on finalizing a use policy / operation plan for community group sponsored events at the amphitheater, because that's the true priority. And to direct staff to bring a draft use policy operation plan to the City Council at a future public meeting for its consideration. So I will now turn the presentation back to Ms. Crane.
Since November, we have been working on that draft operational framework, which included engaging with staff from all of the relevant city departments, such as community services, police, fire, building, risk management, and the city attorney. And the City Council then appointed a new ad hoc subcommittee in January, and we've had 2 meetings with them to review the draft. So let's talk about more what's in that draft policy and operational framework, what those are. What we're proposing is a draft policy that would provide parameters for how the park and the amphitheater can be used for events regardless of who the host of that event is. We're proposing an 18-month pilot period as a trial to work through the process and figure out what works and doesn't work, and to give a chance then to reassess and reevaluate so we can continue to fine-tune in comparison to our goals. In developing the policy and the operations framework, we use the lens of 3 overarching goals, which are providing community events because of the vitality that they add to the community and the overall quality of life here in Murrieta, being a good steward of city resources, which includes taking care of the facility, and city financial resources, which includes our staff time, and maybe most importantly, being a good neighbor to the surrounding neighborhood. So starting with the policy part of this, included in your packet as attachment A to the agenda report is the draft City Council policy called the Town Square Park Amphitheater Use Policy and Operations Plan. This is our standard City Council policy format, and it covers topics like the purpose, definitions, and a high-level overview of the process. The operations plan is referenced in the policy and attached to it, and it provides a framework for how the Town Square Park and Amphitheater can be used and by whom for that 18-month period. So without getting into super detail about every facet of what's in the operations plan, I do want to overview some of those details related to each of the goals. So starting with goal 1, providing safe and enjoyable events. Again, the goal is to make the space available to host community-oriented events, recognizing how much value they add to the community. And the operations plan then sets forth who would be eligible to use the space. So for the pilot period, it's proposed that the park and the amphitheater not be available for rental by private parties or commercial entities, and likewise that it not be used for playing organized sports. The focus would be on using the space for community events, and the groups that would be eligible to use it would be Murrieta-based civic-focused nonprofits, other local public agencies, the already approved signature events that were established by the City Council, and then, of course, the city and city-affiliated events, which would include the future contracted special event management firm. And I should also say that, like our standard practice for all city parks in Murrieta, reservations wouldn't be required for informal, casual gatherings of up to 25 people. So for example, if you wanted to have a small birthday party picnic for a group of less than 25 and the park isn't being used and there's no reservation, that would be okay. Additionally, the operations plan gets into the reservations and the approval process and also the frequency of use. So each eligible group, notwithstanding the city and the city affiliates, would be able to use the space once per year, including one large-scale event of 2,500 people or greater. And this is in recognition that there are a lot of potential groups that could use the space. And we want to balance giving different groups a chance to use the space while also not being overly impactful on the neighborhood. And along that line, the operation plan also sets forth that the other than the signature events and city events hosted by the city, that there would be no more than one event per month with more than 2,500 people unless the City Council approved that. The framework also states that the events should be open to the public to attend at low or no cost with a discounted rate for Murrieta residents if there were a cost, and that if there were tickets sold, the event host may be asked to consider revenue sharing with the city, and that would be in addition to covering the city costs as regularly would be required. Related to the safety aspect of providing safe and enjoyable events, the operation plan sets forth requirements related to safety, access for the disabled community, food service, and more. Some examples include that there's advanced review of the proposed event plan by police, fire, building, through the special event permit application, and then depending upon the scope of what's planned by the event host, there would be conditions developed by each department that would be provided to the event host and then addressed related to what the expense of that would be. And also related to safety, I want to highlight that what's recommended for the pilot period is that alcohol be limited to beer and wine, and that's at the strong professional recommendation of our police chief, Tony Conrad, and his team. Moving on to goal 2, which is stewardship of city resources. This includes taking good care of the facility and city financial resources, and also includes staff time. And the intent of taking overall good care of the facility is that so it can be enjoyed for years to come by the community. And the operations plan sets forth the expectation that all the expenses that are incurred in providing an event and complying with the requirements that are set forth would be borne by the event host. There would be a user fee structure, which we're still working on, and like all city fees, it would be based on the principle of cost recovery. It's not a revenue generation tool. It's to recover what the city's costs are. And the event host would also pay a deposit, which is again toward the goal of ensuring good condition of the facility when the event concludes, if we had to use that money to pay to restore it to the condition that was in when it was found. And then lastly, goal number 3, being a good neighbor. It's really important that we provide community events at the space and that we're doing so in a way that's neighborly and cognizant of the surrounding residential neighborhoods. The operation plan includes a number of provisions along those lines, which would apply to all events, including those that are hosted by the city. And examples include statements that the event hosts are required to follow the municipal code with regard to noise and lighting. And then for noise, depending upon the scope of what's proposed, the event host, may be required to do noise monitoring to make sure that they're staying within what's required of the municipal code. Also, depending upon the event scale, the event host may be required to provide traffic control, which would require an encroachment permit. And then similarly, larger events that have more than 2,500 people or 750 vehicles parked would be required to provide an off-site parking plan and shuttle. Again, that's to avoid having overflow parking in the neighborhoods and trying to be a good neighbor. So I want to talk for a minute about the practical side of how this would work. So assuming that the City Council adopts the policy and the operations framework, the event host would then complete a special event application that is specific to the Town Square Park and Amphitheater. We already have that kind of application that we use for other events like the Tour de Murrieta or other events, but this is going to be tailored specifically to the unique circumstances of the amphitheater. And that application would then be reviewed by our staff special event subcommittee, which includes representatives of those departments I mentioned earlier. And then the committee would provide the conditions that they recommend, depending upon the scope of what the host is wanting to do. So in terms of next steps, I want to break this down into two sections. So I want to talk first about what I'm calling would be most of the hosts that would be using the space, the majority of those users. So once the council adopts the policy and the operations framework, the next thing that we would do is finalize the user fee schedule, which we are currently working on as staff, and we would need to bring it back to the City Council for adoption. We're also putting the final touches on that special event permit application that I mentioned, and that's going to be really helpful to help us understand what it is that the event host wants to do, to minimize back and forth, and hear from them as early on as possible what they're wanting to do so we can give them as much feedback and it's not late in the game and then we're adding on new requirements because we didn't realize that they wanted to do that. So secondly, I want to talk about next steps with regard to the special event management firm. So at the beginning of the presentation, we talked about the RFI process and where we left off while we've been working on this use policy. And while there were 3 firms that originally submitted in response to the RFI, without getting into detail about the firms, there was one of the 3 that was determined to not be suitable just based on the scale of the services that that firm provides and what is needed for this particular project. And so therefore, staff is recommending that as a next step with the 2 remaining potential firms that we would send to each of them a draft agreement for professional services based off the city's standard agreement that we do with all of our consultants, but it would be appropriately tailored to this very unique circumstance. We would send them the use policy and operations framework, and then using those items, the prospective firms would revise their proposals and provide us with a business plan, financial plan for what they would be proposing to do. We would then review those as staff and with the subcommittee, and then return to the City Council with a recommendation to award an agreement to one of those firms. Based on staff's professional experience, we believe that this very thorough review that the city has done to develop this use policy and the operations plan and fleshing out all of the city's expectations for the event host and the parameters will help the prospective event management firms to understand what it is that we're wanting of them, and then to be able to come back to us with a more realistic business proposal. So we're getting close to the end, but I wanted to touch on one more concept back to that pilot program, which I've mentioned a couple of times. We are recommending this as a pilot program, recognizing that we're implementing a new program, and there's a lot of different components to this. We think that we're at a point where we have a good framework, and it's time to get started working towards that with those 3 overarching goals. But we also are seeing that these first 18 months would be a really good learning opportunity for the city, and we recommend using this time to assess, what lessons learned, how was the space used, and then to report back to you as the City Council. Also, if there was something that we wanted to address sooner than 18 months, that's certainly an option. But we're just kind of setting out 18 months as a starting place. So in conclusion, staff is recommending that the City Council approve the proposed policy for the Town Square Park and Amphitheater usage and operations framework for an 18-month pilot period, and that you direct staff to proceed with the recommended next steps to implement the policy, such as completing the use fees, and also to proceed with the next steps for contracting with a special event management firm, as we've outlined. And I'd like now to turn it over to our subcommittee, and Brian and I, of course, are here to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Kristen, Madam City Clerk, can we go to public comments? Are there any public comments on this?
Yes.
Can we go to public comments and put questions and discussions together for?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, so
Public comment. I have Cass and Klein.
Can you put slide 18, please? And then after that, I'll want 15, please. Yeah. Good evening. When I read the staff report, it wasn't clear, but it became clear in slide 18 here that, if I understand correctly, that staff, now that this policy has been outlined, drafted, that it's going to be submitted to the people that were qualified that answered the RFIs. Seems to me that if we move forward with this, that we're skipping a step. I would suggest that it would be in the city's best interest that we would now distribute RFPs. I know in my experience there are a number of either consultants or vendors that aren't interested in providing information, but they're interested in, once they know the rules, they're interested in playing the game. So clearly, these three and two of the three were interested in giving the information of which the policy was drafted, and now that it's drafted, there may be others that might be interested in preparing a proposal. If you could go to slide 15, please. Being a good neighbor. When these people bought in the neighborhood, they knew what they were buying next to. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. I'm going to ask a question, but I don't want the city to answer it because I don't want the city to incriminate itself. But do we abide by our noise ordinance during the birthday bash? With regard to, on page 6, on-site parking B2, to minimize event parking on adjacent neighborhoods, event hosts may not charge event attendees for parking in the dirt lots. They're public streets. Why are we going to disallow people to park on the street next to our amphitheater? We let them park on Cal Oaks. Going to C, off-site parking. Events expected to exceed 2,500 or 750, minimize overflight parking adjacent neighborhoods. Event hosts must provide off-site parking and shuttles. Yet the downtown market nights, they're not required to do that. And I know for a fact that some of the local restaurants, that their parking fills up from people not patronizing those restaurants. They've got an issue with that. So why is it that we're not practicing what we preach? I don't get that. So I think we need to re-examine that. I think we need to be consistent. But the biggest thing to me, the bigger issue is I think RFPs need to be put out and then go from there. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those comments. Any other public comments?
Seeing none.
All right. I just want to say thank you to our staff. I know we've been hearing this for over a year now, and thank you so much for your time and your effort to move this forward. I know it's taken a lot of energy, and hats off to Councilmember Holliday and Councilmember Warren for getting this forward and to spend all the time that it was needed to get this to come forward. And congratulations to you. That is something that wasn't done in the past, and I'm super excited that it's come this far. We need something, and so I'm going to push it over since they are our committee members. I'm going to push that over to Council Member Warren to start, Holliday to finish.
Thank you, Mayor. I too want to say thank you. This process was not easy by any means. Trying to figure out a policy for something that is so valued in our community is a very important task, and I can guarantee you that nobody took this lightly. In fact, we tried to think of every scenario possible so that we would not have a problem, and that's just not feasible or possible to do. The one thing I would like to change would be from the 18 months to 24 months. I feel that a 24-month period is more realistic. There's still a lot to be worked out, and I think that will give us a midway point at 12 months to make some changes or corrections that need to be made, and then look again 6 more months at the 18-month mark, and then move on to 24 months. Knowing that we can make changes and critique things as we go along, I think a 24-month period would be a better scenario after going through all of this and reading everything again. That is just my suggestion. Also, the subcommittee and the staff, as you know, have spent a great deal of time trying to put together a fair and balanced policy for the amphitheater use. In parallel efforts, we have been working on a contract to provide programming as well. After receiving comments tonight, questions from citizens that I have received, talking amongst the subcommittee and staff, I believe that we should issue RFP for a company to provide programming. I believe we currently have 2 qualified firms that responded to our IRFIs, which is requests for information, who truly provided invaluable information for us to be at this point in this process. During the RFI discussions with all 3 firms, I want to make it perfectly clear that it was mentioned several times that we were gathering information so that we could move forward. And only at that time would we most likely send out full RFP once we narrowed down the policy and the scope of services needed at the amphitheater to move forward in selecting a third-party vendor for larger events for a beautiful amphitheater. That being said, I would like to complete the process by recommending that we move forward with the RFP process with the following timeline. RFPs be sent out no later than April 25th of this year, with submittal dates back to the city no later than June 1st of this year. I feel this level of transparency is needed to reassure those concerned and to make Murrieta select the best vendor for our valued community asset. And with that, I'll turn it over to my subcommittee, Ron Holiday. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Warren. Councilmember Holliday.
Thank you, and I also want to echo my thank yous to staff that my colleagues have mentioned. I know how much time and effort has gone into this. The drafts alone, looking through all the different sections of it and making sure it's clear and readable, and you did a great job. We had a few things to fix, but we wouldn't have been able to do that on our own, obviously. So we had the easier job to review all the hard work that you did, so thank you very much. And to my colleague who did a lot of work on this before I was even elected on council, thank you. I appreciate your remarks. I agree with everything you said. The only suggestion I would have different is if council and or staff deems it worthwhile to have one more ad hoc committee before the RFP goes out to just review the final draft before it gets actually sent out. If that would be worthwhile, I would be willing to do that, and we have a few weeks to accomplish that and to still accomplish your time frame.
Oh, I think that would be great. Great idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holliday. Mayor Pro Tem Stone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I want to thank staff for your diligence, your time, and all of your effort. It's a wonderful framework that you have created for us. And thank you also to my fellow colleagues, Holliday and Warren. And I agree with Councilwoman Warren with her proposed timeline and also the RFP, in addition to Councilmember Holliday's ad hoc committee to see the final draft before it goes out. So I just want to say thank you to your entire team, Brian, for everything that you've done. And I am so excited to see this finally come to fruition. So good job, everyone. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Lavelle.
I will echo almost everything that you guys had said, and thank you, staff, for the amazing hard work. And I agree, the RFP solution, I think, would only provide more options and maybe some more potential savings or benefits to the city. So thank you very much. I did have one question. Obviously, there's time frames that are more desired for like the city to host an event. Is the intent for the management firm to take that over completely, or we would still hold certain events and protect those?
Yes, absolutely. The city, there still is an expectation that the city is going to be hosting the types of event that is always hosted. I think the vision of the council is, as I've understood it, because those conversations happened even before I started, is that the special event management company would bring additional events, 4 to 6 additional events that are maybe bigger scale than what we at a staff level produce typically.
Gotcha. So they would plan something like on a 4th of July or something, or some Christmas event we have there.
No, and we're going to provide some structure around when we already have signature events that are planned and other city events, so then they'll have a calendar to work with.
Awesome. That's all the questions I had, and
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lavelle. So I have one thing to add, and then I'll sum everything up, and then we can receive and file this and move forward. But I noticed when reviewing the policy sent out, it allowed for different uses by different agencies, whether it's a nonprofit, 1 per year, et cetera. I did notice that the school district was 4 per year. I would like to see that also be 1 time per year, so we have some consistency with use. Is my fellow colleagues? Councilmember Holliday.
I agree 100%. And I wanted to mention, I don't think this is a receive and file. I think we have to vote on this.
Oh, okay.
To adopt the policy if you're ready.
Okay.
With changes like that.
All right, so I'll make sure I make this very clear, since it's not a receive and file. Thank you. So from my understanding that we would like to have 1 more ad hoc committee meeting before, that we are going to move the 18-month to a 24-month, and that we would like it to go out to an RFP April 25th, and then back to the city by June 1st. And I think that policy looks amazing, and I think we may get this to move forward. Councilmember Holliday, you're thinking.
The ad hoc committee is not before the approval.
Right, well, so we'll do the approval of this policy tonight, and then with that, before it goes forward for its RFP, the ad hoc committee will meet.
And I would make that motion.
Fantastic, and is this crystal clear?
Yes, I can have a
Fantastic.
moment.
Do I get to second this?
Yes, I would say, for all that hard work, yes, so
Yeah, I need to
all
turn
of
my mic on.
those, waiting for a motion and a second.
So we'll let Mr. Holliday move it, and I will second it.
You can move it if you want.
It doesn't matter. Go ahead. There we go.
I love it. Thank you for your hard work.
I didn't click it. I think the city clerk clicked it because I said it.
I did.
Yes.
You didn't click it.
I took care of it.
Fantastic.
So motion carries unanimously 5-0 as amended. I went ahead and included the 1 more ad hoc subcommittee prior to it going out for an RFP, as the timeline stated, and we've adjusted it from 18 months to 24 months.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Madam City Clerk. All right. That's exciting. Yes.
And to clarify, wasn't your motion also to change the school district to
yes.
1
And the
use per
school
year?
district once per year.
From 4 to 1.
From 4 to 1.
Yeah, there were the 2 changes, the 24 months and then that.
Yes, and that's approval by the maker of the motion and
Yes.
Mr. Holliday? Yep.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney, for making sure that got in there. Thank you so much. All right. Well, it's a celebration day. We're talking about all kinds of good things, amphitheaters and Santa stops, and what a night it's been. So moving on to governing board announcements. Madam City Clerk, I'll let you get those slides going up.
Yes, ma'am.
And we'll start with Councilmember Warren.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. I did not bring pictures because somebody made a comment that I brought too many pictures, so I didn't bring pictures this time, but I wanted to talk about a ride-along that I went on with the Murrieta Police Department with Corporal Creed a week ago Friday. We have the most professional, dedicated, respectful department ever. I was so impressed with how our men and women address our public under some of the most stressful situations, always talking to them with respect, with professionalism. I have never been so proud. And this is not my first ride-along, but this was my best ride-along. And please let the department know how proud I am of them. Just an excellent time. And we got a couple bad guys, so that was good too. So I attended the KTM North America new headquarters grand opening celebration, the Boys and Girls Club networking breakfast, the most wonderful and fastest racing bike thing I've ever been to in my entire life, the 18th annual Tour de Murrieta. Would not take a corner at all with those bikes. And today's fabulous second annual Touch with a Truck event was a blast. I don't think I have seen so many little kids, other than the trunk or treat, than I saw today. Hats off to Murrieta. We know how to do community, we know how to do it right, and we know how to do it fun. That concludes my report.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Warren. And I missed Touch a Truck. I was very sad. So, but next time, I will take some time off and go touch a truck. Councilmember Lavelle.
Thank you, Mayor. I also attended the KTM grand opening. If you guys have not been out there or seen what they have done, it's quite an amazing structure and campus. It's going to bring some really amazing things to the city of Murrieta, or the area that are going to be. Oh, is that for me?
Yeah, that's for you.
Anyway, KTM, the new facility is very amazing. You guys should all get out there and see it. And I just want to wish everyone a happy Easter, and I hope you enjoy it and celebrate whatever Easter means to you. And I would ask for your thoughts and prayers, as tomorrow I venture into the world of only having teenage daughters, as my youngest one turns 13. So that is my life now. Thank you. Happy birthday, Jaden. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Lavelle, and I will pray for you with your teenage daughters. Only having sons, I would not even know. Councilmember Holliday.
Yeah, I share in those prayers for you. Having 2 daughters myself, and now 4 granddaughters, and only 1 grandson. So if you need tips, I'll meet you at the bar. I shared our finance department awards. Congratulations to Javier Carcamo on those awards. I shared those at the Coffee at the City on March 28th. I also attended the KTM ribbon cutting ceremony. There was a lot of people turned out for that. What a great facility. One of the things they said was their success is because of their racing program, and their racing building is as big as their corporate building. Yeah. So they're investing in that, what they feel made them a success. It was nice to see all those race teams out there. I attended on March 29th, I attended the job fair at Village Walk Plaza that was put on by the Chamber, and met the owner of El Patron, who is opening a restaurant here in town that we've talked about. And what a really neat lady she is, and she looks forward to expanding in Murrieta. And one of the things she said is, she goes, you know, when I came down here and I started talking to neighboring businesses and stuff, she goes, this place is different, a really good different. It was nice to hear that from somebody that's opening a restaurant in town. I also watched the little kids race at the Tour de Murrieta. I got there right as the first one was starting, and was amused to see them not using their pedals, but with their legs going as fast as they could till the older ones got on there. And yeah, the professionals, man. I was thinking, oh, there's lap 6, there's lap 7, they're about done. No, they go around for a while. I don't know that I can make it once around. And then I also attended the Touch a Truck today and was just super pleased to see the turnout from our community and all these young adults and kids just running around, and they're honking the horns and getting to see all the different things we had. Really commend staff for putting on such great events. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Holliday. Mayor Pro Tem Stone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You will see my list of governing body announcements, which you can view on our website. But I do want to share a story with you about Murrieta Connected by Community. And the executive director of Michelle's Place, Kim Garish, had called me with regards to a young lady, 28 years old, living in a motel with her 7 children and her mother. Her husband is not in the picture due to a domestic violence situation. And sadly, this mother of 7, who's 28 years old, has stage 4 cancer and has weeks to live. She wanted the family to move out of this motel and have her pass in a home. So I picked up the phone and I called Ann Unmuck from Project Touch. I think staff knows who she is. And she stepped up to the plate, along with Melissa Donaldson from Save Family Justice Center. And yesterday, this family was removed from the motel. Ann and Melissa were able to provide this family a home so the mother can pass away. And then Derek Huss, the president of the Murrieta Police Officers Association, today purchased 7 car seats. And so when we talk about our community coming together when there's a need or a cause, here's a prime example how we are connected. And so I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for having this family move from a motel so this 28-year-old woman can die peacefully in a home. That concludes my report, Madam Mayor.
What a wonderful thing you did. So thank you for everything that everyone did to help you make that happen. I just want to, I'll defer mine. I thought we would be much later tonight, and it looks like we're going to get out fairly early. And I thought we'd be 9 o'clock. But just to remind you, we have the extravaganza happening on Saturday. I hope to see you all out there chasing Easter eggs on the ground, although there is an age limit, so, you know, come on. I want to also say then the following weekend we will be the Fireman's Barbecue, and that's always a lot of fun, and I'm sure my fellow council members and I will be dishing up lots of tri-tip and everything else good. And as I was at the Tour de Murrieta with my fellow colleagues, an idea for a charity event for next year would be a council member bike race. And people could bet on the winner once, and we could ride those little youth bikes. So not sure if we have something, but I think that would be a whole heck of a lot of fun.
Maybe.
Okay.
No. Okay, Ron. Okay, yay. Okay, so for fun, yeah, we'll have medics.
Paramedics will be standing by.
Yeah,
Yes,
so anyway, that was just off on a little tangent, but thank you so much. Now we're going to move on to council member requests to add items to future agendas. Now is the time for a council member to request to add items to future agendas. There'll be no discussion on the request. A brief explanation and the request may be given. The merit of these items being requested may not be discussed or debated. Now, is there any requests from any of my colleagues to put anything on upcoming agendas? Yes. All right. Mayor Pro Tem Stone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As discussed in prior city council meetings, we all agreed we have to have another layer of communication from the dais to our residents. Sacramento is moving quickly. They're lobbying our Senate and our Assembly to approve 38 bills that would drastically change, affect our City of Murrieta Police Department and the quality of life of our residents. Here are a few examples of what's coming down the pipeline. We have AB 599, no suspend, expel for students who bring or use fentanyl on campus. SB 402, police barred from responding to disturbing the peace, blocking sidewalks, drunk, drugged persons, illegal camping, and panhandling. And then the last one is AB 391. No investigation of any anonymous tips reporting child abuse or neglect.
Mayor Pro Tem, could you could you specifically tell me what item you would like on the agenda?
I'm giving you example. There are 38 bills that will drastically affect the change of our Murrieta Police Department and the quality of life of our residents. And what I'm asking is consensus to agendize at our next council meeting to discuss and take action on these bills. In addition, it gives our residents the time to understand the impacts so they can have a voice prior to these bills possibly becoming law, so they can address these with our state assembly and our assembly members. That concludes my request.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Madam City Attorney, we have a legislative committee. Could you please elaborate a little bit on?
I mean, there is a legislative platform, and then there's a legislative committee that I believe is for the things that aren't covered by the platform to review and make recommendations to the council.
Because I know that when I can bring it back to the entire council, I have been, but if things are being requested of me very fast, I'm moving very forward on letters and legislation. So I just wanted to know if we weren't already doing that. Madam City Manager, could you elaborate a little bit on that with the legislative platform, just so we get some clarity?
So the legislative platform is designed so that, because often we do get requests, and usually related to the police department, they come through the police department. So the chief or one of the organizations related to the police department will contact us and ask us for a letter of support or opposition. Staff can quickly refer to the platform that was adopted by the council, and then we can say to the mayor, this has been approved or not. And so then we pass it on to you to sign. If there's something that comes up or something that's on the ballot that isn't quite covered by the platform, or maybe it's just unusual and we think it's important that the council discuss it, we'll bring it to the council if we have time. So most of the time we have enough leeway. Every now and then we might have to bring something as an emergency, but that tends to be rare.
Thank you.
Could I have a question?
Yeah.
May I?
Uh-huh.
Could these items be brought to our city manager so that she can review them with our platform and then get them out for our approval? Is that possible?
The problem is that time is of the essence right now, and so action needs to be taken immediately, and then by us voting on these bills will give direction to staff to either send out letters immediately, or they can just send it as a slate to the legislature. And also, again, Councilwoman Warren, one of the things that we discussed in a prior meeting was our community feels that we are not doing our due diligence to communicate to them about possible legislation that's coming down that will affect our city. And as we discussed in prior meetings, we talked about having additional communication from the dais to our residents. This gives them an opportunity to understand the bills that will affect our community so they can outreach to either the committee or to our senator or our assembly member.
Okay, so are you asking for 3 or 38 or 28? I can't remember what the number was.
I have about 28 bills that will drastically affect our police department and the quality of life of our residents.
Okay.
So just to kind of take this back over just a second. So if it's going to drastically affect our police chief would be bringing that forward to us. Is that correct? Or shouldn't our assemblyman or our senator also be reaching out to us for, like they have in the past? Can you?
Yeah, those requests could come through a variety of ways, whether it is through elected officials or through our own education of things that are coming down the line. I know Chief Conrad meets monthly with all the Riverside County chiefs of police and our Sheriff Chad Bianco to discuss these types of things. So there's a variety of ways that these can be brought to our attention, and if we feel the need, then yeah, we can bring it to your attention for support.
All right, thank you. And I don't want to get off our agenda, Madam City Attorney. So do we have,
I'd like to second the initiative at least. I'd like to know if these are truly going to affect our police and public safety of the city. And maybe there is, if time is of the essence, we should address those and have, either we have the policy that can provide that letter of support, or we don't. But I think we should know that. I would support knowing that
was a
for sure.
yes. Okay, so do we have a third?
We voted on our legislative policy recently.
Right.
And because things are of the essence, I would hate to have things slowed down because we agendize something that's already in place. And we have our advocacy, our lobbyists that are also working on this. I don't want to slow any of that down, would be my concern.
Thank you.
I don't know if the city attorney or city manager can address if they thing is being missed.
So my concern would be tomorrow is the deadline for our next agenda packet. All of those will need to be vetted by the police department because they're the authorities. They're going to know, sometimes a bill or legislation looks like it's in support of the police department. I would want their input, so they will have to go through and vet all of those bills. We can do our very best to get it on the next agenda, but it will be a struggle.
I see we have two. And so any of my other colleagues? So I'll just make a statement. I thank Mayor Pro Tem for bringing this forward. I think it's very important. And I love her passion about getting out to the community and knowing what's going on so crazy in Sacramento and that we can't even fathom what they're bringing forward to us. And so I think that maybe just to elaborate that we really would like our city to take a stand and move forward and to make sure our police department is taking notes feverishly as well, because we do want to support our police and fire first responders, and we want to keep our communities safe. So thank you for bringing this forward. All right. Anything else? Anybody else? All right. Without any further business, this meeting is now adjourned. I want to wish everyone a happy Easter and be safe. And I want to see you all out at the extravaganza on Saturday. So thank you so much.
And happy Passover also.
Yes.